Hello everybody, welcome to Crafty Soup. My name is Misty. I am back again today with another layout process video for the CKC challenge number 2. And this challenge was to use pennants. Since our inspiration had a lot of pennants in it, I definitely added those to my kits, so I definitely have them to use. I am scrapping these photos, which you may have seen before, because I am telling this same story for multiple albums. And at the end of the month, I think I'm going to pull all of these multiples and put them into one video so you can see how I've approached these same stories in different ways. But for now, I have pulled out all of those pennants off to the left that I had already in my kit, so I have a selection there to work from. I'm looking for a background pattern to work for this layout. And the colors in the photos, I was trying to use those to inform my color choices, but the photos themselves are pretty mild color-wise, so I chose this pretty rainbow print, and that's a nice time when your photos don't have a lot of color to them. You have more flexibility to choose either the more colorful papers or the bolder colored papers. And so I went with this one, and I'm going to balance that out with a more neutral pattern, and that will be kind of a block to hold my photos. I am going through all of my embellishment bits and pieces to see if anything else will work. I am having a little bit of a challenge with this kit this month because a lot of my embellishments are on the larger side. So I am trying to figure out ways to use these up. And one of the ways I'm going to do that is with that little keychain print. I'm going to fussy cut it out and use it as separate embellishments that way. I did find a journaling card that will work for my journaling. Because it's pink on a pink portion of the background, I wanted to give it more contrast. So I am creating my own tag, even though there's lots of tags in my kits. I really liked this dark navy, especially since it's going to work with the keychain print here that I have. I'm cutting out a phrase from it as well as some of the little keychain icons. And I'm trying to decide how to use that phrase the best. And I decide just to trim it off at the bottom of the phrase and fussy cut the top and use it as this kind of flowing element on part of my page. And I'll get to where that's going to be located a little bit later. In the meantime, I'm finalizing other bits of my layout. I've got my main photo block up there. I am overlapping my other two photos. One is popped up on film tape, and so all of these elements are kind of touching and overlapping each other. And this is what I decided to do with that strip that I cut out. I decided to go ahead and stick it right down there at the bottom, and I am making sure that my photos all touch that pattern paper wood grain block so that that is the center of that photo cluster. Now I have these open spaces on my layout that I have room to fill, and the one on the left there is definitely a perfect place for all these pennants. I have several pennants in these colors that say fabulous, so I decided to repeat that element in an ombre rainbow that kind of goes along with my background. And it says fabulous, 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 and then I use a contrasting color in the yellow to say adventures. And this layout is all about my daughter going off to college for the first time. She did the first year of college online because, you know, COVID. So this was a nice send-off to her to be able to actually get to college and enjoy the experience of being a college student. I do fussy cut a couple more elements out of other bits and pieces, and then I decide, since this is really a challenge about pennants, I needed more pennants on here, especially since I've got them down on the bottom left-hand side. I want to add a reflection of that in the upper right-hand side. And I thought I would have some pieces already that would work for this, but I decided I needed to make my own. So I made long rectangles and then I cut them down into these pennants. I traced them with my white gel pen, and that is going to become my main embellishment cluster up in this upper right-hand corner. And with those elements in place, I just drape my little banner pennants into an arc up there, and I will add a little bit more detail to those. But in the meantime, I'm working on other parts of the layout. Again, I am putting the date across this other banner that's going with that embellishment cluster. And here's where I add the details into that upper pennant section. I'm just going to, instead of doing a string or some kind of twine up there, I am using enamel dots to emphasize each spot between each pennant, and I really like how that came out. And then I'm adding more enamel dots to other bits and pieces of this layout to get them to sprinkle around. And once I have that all in place, I'm feeling like it's not quite finished and it needs a little bit of something. So I pull out the stamp set from my kit this month, and I want to do a little bit more heat embossing to go along with the heat embossing on those pennants that I made previously. And I wanted to show you this product. This is an embossing marker. It's got the same ink in it like an embossing ink pad, but because it's in a marker form, you can get into the nooks and crannies, small nooks and crannies of details of stamps to get just what you want. So here I'm going to get a word off of that one stamp that it's a sweater, but it says love on it. So I'm going to get that word with my marker, and then a couple of small hearts, and those will be just a sprinkling of detail to add to this layout to finish it off. I'm going to do something I have never done before, and that is heat embossing on a photo. Now, this is dangerous territory, and there I just stamped my embossing powder on, and I'm sprinkling stamped my ink on, and I sprinkled my embossing powder. I made sure my gun is super hot before I do this because I want that embossing powder to melt as soon as possible. Now, the heat can totally screw up your photos. And for me, I print at home, so if it messed up my photo, I was willing to just reprint it and replace it. But it worked out okay. It did warp my photo a little bit, but I got the heat embossing to melt. And I'm not sure I would do this technique again just because it is a little dangerous. But I liked how that little heart added just a touch of something to this layout. So maybe in the future I would use maybe a white StazOn ink or perhaps just a white pigment ink. But I did it this time because I had all these supplies out, and it came out okay. So I was living a little on the edge with that technique. At any rate, I have finished off this layout with a little bit of twine, and I will leave you with some close-ups. And again, this is another simple layout like yesterday, but even though it's simple, I hope you got maybe a couple of tips and tricks out of this video that you can put to use in your crafting. And if you appreciated something about the video, I would love it if you could give me a thumbs up because that does help my channel. And as always, I thank you so much for being here and for watching. I will be back with the SCT Sampler Kit unboxing and project video for next time. And until then, I hope you have an artful day.